This year, I was pregnant. I stood in the bathroom, nauseous and uncomfortable, before going back out to the dining room to have dinner with my husband and our 2 kids. Later, I drove to an abortion clinic. I held the hand of my friend as we crossed a line of angry pro-life activists who yelled curse words at us and poked their head into our car. I thought I'd join a cult. And in the elaborate initiation ritual, I had my hands bound and dipped in wax, chemicals thrown in my face. And in the final seance, I watched as one of my peers was murdered. I traveled to the Caribbean and danced with a cabana boy. I think he fell in love with me because when I came home, he'd sent me this postcard. All of that happened to me this year. It's crazy to think about all those experiences. I mean, the grease in the wax stuck in the hands on my arm, the hairs on my arm. The cold metal of the tray in the seance in the moments before she died. The inner monologue in my head as those people were yelling at us as we approached that clinic. And the stares at my back that I knew were there when we were in that beach club. Now, how is this possible? Right? I am not a woman, I'm not married, I'm not pregnant, I'm not gay, and I'm not a cult member. But I am obsessed with a new medium, a medium that doesn't really have a name or has many names depending on who you ask. Immersive theater, transmedia, escape rooms, virtual reality, augmented reality. These are all sort of examples of entertainment in this new medium. It is in the very earliest days of this entertainment. I mean, for comparison, it's a little bit like film in the 20s. At that time, we really didn't know what it meant to do storytelling in that medium. How long should it be? Should there be audio? How about music? Nobody really knew, and so there was a lot of experimentation that was happening. Or in the case of computing in the 70s, how do we get information in and out of these things, and what's a computer really look like? And it took Alan Kay to define the laptop, and Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak to commercialize the desktop, and we now have the computer that we understand to be a computer today. In the case of film, it took Citizen Kane and Star Wars and Midnight Cowboy and countless other explorations in this space, 100 years of explorations to land at long shots and fast cuts and the 22-minute TV show and the 90-minute movie. And we call that Hollywood. And it's sort of funny here on in the Dolby Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. Many of you know there's sort of more refrigerator magnets than there are like movies being made. And that's because Hollywood's a concept, right? It is a shorthand for talking about the industry of 2D and 3D storytelling, whether you're in Los Angeles or Atlanta or Vancouver or Bulgaria or wherever there are great tax credits for filmmaking. Now, I would like to invite you to a new place that, well, since it doesn't really have a name, let's just make it easy and we'll call it New Hollywood. And New Hollywood is a very special place. Special because of its immersion. The fact that it engages all of your senses, right? Not just sight and sound, but touch and taste and all these different things. Now, in New Hollywood, you are the character. And I don't mean controlling the character like with your thumbs, like a video game. I mean more like Michael Douglas in The Game, right? Where the game is all around you everywhere, and everybody's a party in it. If you think about the trend in entertainment, it's about increasing your immersion. So a book, you are a passive observer and you do all the imagining. A movie is over there. You can sort of silently judge it, and the imagining's been done for you, but you're still this passive observer. A video game maybe gives you some control with your thumbs. A Wii and a Kinect, you can kind of dance around in front of it, but you're still sort of tethered to the screen. We've heard a lot about virtual reality today. That's really interesting. You now get to control the angle. But you know what's even more immersive than that? The most high resolution of all? Real life! It's awesome. And, you know, super immersive, haptics, full body tracking, right? Actually, haptics that can kill you, you know, it's great. And as my friend Ryan Lukin says, picture of a glass of water is no substitute for drinking that glass of water. So, a movie in its most simple form is a great bit of entertainment, something to occupy our time. A horror might spur some adrenaline. A good comedy might spur you to laughter. But they also have the capacity for real change. A good drama might teach you some interpersonal lesson that you can apply to your own life. A good documentary might reveal the challenges of facing our Earth or its people and spur you to action. Really great one, Mission Blue from Sylvia Earle, talks all about the state of our oceans. Now, in New Hollywood, the capacity for that change is even more incredible, because the fact that it is engaging all of your senses makes that memory all the more permanent. And that is really incredible, because now you can actually take on the role of somebody else, someone that you don't know, or that would never be accessible to you, a perspective that would never be available to you. That's amazing. You know how they say, study in the room you take the test? That's because while you're sitting there studying, you're going to be doing your reading or whatever it is, but there's also smells and the look in the room and all the other things, so that when you're on there at test day, those same triggers might help you remember that piece of information that you need taking that test. And this is really powerful in New Hollywood, right? Because there is no shortage of hard problems, right? And we have, obviously in America, a big divide, and all over the world, a division between our people. And the thing that is so incredible is, imagine being able to empathize and imagine what that person on the other side of the line is thinking, right? If we say both sides are crazy, then surely there's some assumption wrong somewhere. I would like to take you on a little tour of a number of the places inside of New Hollywood that I've explored and would invite you to explore as well. So the one that most people will recognize is something called Sleep No More. And this is in New York. It's a 100,000 square foot building on the Lower West Side. And this is an immersive theater production, but an immersive theater production doesn't necessarily mean there's a stage and an audience, right? In this particular one, it's a 100,000 square foot building, and it's themed with all variety of different stuff, from taxidermy to plants, and it's incredible. And when you first arrive, they give you one of these masks. You put it on, and they say, no talking, no cell phones, enjoy your stay. And for the next couple of hours, you're wandering around this environment, wherever you want to go. If you want to go left, you go left. You want to go right, you go right. And you see other actors that are there, or other audience members that are there with their masks. But every now and again, you see people walking around that don't have a mask. And you could follow them. And if you do, they are going to have some performance. And pretty soon, after a little while, you realize, gosh, these are scenes from Macbeth. Now, you could go back to this production a couple of times and see a different experience every time, because remember, you're self-directed. You get to go wherever you want. It's incredible. There's a trend sweeping the nation called escape games. He started in Russia and China, and the idea is you and some number of friends, maybe 5, 6, 10, get locked in a room, right? You all show up, you get locked in a room, and you have to figure out how to get out. And some of them are themed like detective, and some of them are themed horror, and you're all going to figure out what the puzzles are that are going to get you out of this room. My company, 2-Bit Circus, got obsessed with this domain. We actually started making this kind of immersive entertainment inspired by the game in 2010, and built this space station, this spaceship, so that you could feel what it was like to pilot a spaceship. And it took all of you, somebody being the navigator, somebody being the gunner, somebody being the pilot. Virtual reality we've been talking a lot about, we've been hearing a lot about it today. It was here in the 90s, it looked like this, pretty ridiculous. And it was super expensive then, people got nauseous, it was very expensive to create the content, and so it didn't really work. But now it's back, and it's really back because all those things got solved. The hardware's awesome, the content production is awesome, and it looks more like this. This is the HTC Vive, really an incredible version of it. And at 2-Bit, we got very excited about this domain, made our own 360 camera, wrote our own stitching software, and strapped it to an Indy car. We drove it at 200 miles an hour around a racetrack so that you could safely sit in a motion platform, put on a headset, and feel what it was like to drive in an Indy car. Fan blowing you in the face, the seats moving around. And it was sort of goofy because after doing that, we're a bunch of nerds that don't really like sports. We got started doing lots of sports stuff. We ended up doing something for the NFL. We strapped our camera to our robot so that it could run the touchdown pass. I learned what a punt return was. And we then installed this thing at the Super Bowl so that we could put 30,000 people through what it's like to be the football player, right? Everybody likes to watch football, but what is it like to be the player, trying to be tackled? I went to Copenhagen and did this 5-person, multi-role virtual reality dinner. I'll give you a second to unpack that. And it was wonderful. Right before we sat down, the artist said, pick a role, mom, dad, the oldest son, his new girlfriend, or the youngest son. But he's like, try to be somebody you're not normally. So I was like, okay, great, I'll be the mom. And sure enough, when it started, I'm in the bathroom, I look down, I'm in a dress, I'm pregnant, and the story goes on. Now, the part that was really fascinating about this is for 10 minutes, we're all watching this video, all 5 of us, and we're all sitting at a table set exactly like it is in the video. And this family has got issues. I mean, they're all giving each other a hard time. Everybody's giving each other a hard time. And we all finally take off our headsets, and 2 things happened that were really fascinating. First, we all were like, God, I'm so sorry, right? Because I was seeing it from the mom, my girlfriend was seeing it from the dad. Everybody had a different perspective. And so we all traded our sort of sympathies with each other. But then we also started to reveal other information. They didn't know I was pregnant, right? I'd been in the bathroom, they didn't know. Turns out my husband was on drugs. He'd got up in the middle of the dinner and went downstairs. But we were all sitting at the table, so we didn't see that. Only the one who was the dad got to see that. So it took all of us sort of sharing the experience afterwards in order to be able to get the full story. Awesome. Meow Wolf, oh man. Okay, so George R.R. Martin, author of Game of Thrones, in Santa Fe buys a bowling alley, 40,000 square foot bowling alley, guts it, and gives it to 100 artists. And what ensues is this wild, whacked out amusement park, science center, down the rabbit hole experience that you just have to see. I don't really know what else I can show you except for that picture. The Speakeasy Society, right here in Los Angeles, very prolific theater company, immersive theater production. Through them, I have been an infantryman in a World War II trench. I have gone into a running regular restaurant with normal public and sat down and been the audience of one with 2 actors at a dinner table. Also here in Los Angeles, Elysium Conservatory Theater is about to do a tent revival that ends very badly. I'll just leave it at that. In downtown LA, most recently, there was an opera that literally was performed across limousines, multiple limousines all crossing each other, and you and 2 friends are in the back of a limousine, and the actors are right there in front of you, absolutely nuts. They drop you off at one street corner, pick you up, and take you somewhere else. It was, unbelievable. The Encounter on stage at Broadway right now. Everybody has wireless headsets on. The microphone is on the stage, and he's whispering as he goes around this microphone as if you were the only person in the middle of that stage. The Grand Paradise, also in New York, immersive theater production. This is the one that sent me the postcard. Really cool. And the Tension Experience. These are the ones that bound my hands and dip it in wax. And at the time that happened, I was like, wow, this is horrible. I can't believe I signed up for this. And the further I get from the experience, the more I love it, because it was really incredible how much that immersion, how much it really just rocked me to my core. The Latitude Society up in Northern California, a very prolific creator in this space, Jeff Hull, gave me this card, said, show up at this one address in the Mission at 12:30. You have a 5-minute window. Well, I'm like, wow, 5-minute window. You do not be late when there's a 5-minute window. So I show up, I swipe my card at the door, I open the door, it's really dark, dark hall. I walk down the hall, and at the end of the hall, I'm looking around, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? My eyes have just adjusted, and I look down, and there is a wooden slide, a gorgeous wooden slide. So it's your one option, right? You just go down the slide. And 2 hours of interactive experience later, I'm walking around a hacked arcade. I go into a bar to get special information. I'm walking down the road, and there's other special things happening. Wild and powerful. Augmented reality is something that is just starting to crest. And you could think of virtual reality as kind of a subset of augmented reality. Virtual reality, right, there's a screen in your face and the whole world is rendered in front of you. Augmented reality is more about adding features to the existing world. You're looking through a screen and you can put some things on it. Now this, from Keiichi Matsuda, is a wonderful full video that I encourage you all to watch the whole thing. Her augmented reality interface has just collapsed. And so it's now rebooting. As you can see, all the stuff sort of overlay.
Me alegra verte. Hoy te ves hermosa. Estás estrenando zapatos.
And you know, this is very dystopian because you'll see what happens later if you watch it, but really incredible at sort of what could happen when we all have screens in front of our faces all the time. So I'd like to invite you all to come and visit New Hollywood. Do a few. There's a lot of explorations in this space. Nobody really knows what the right answer is, but there's a lot of interesting stuff. And for the dedicated creators among you, I urge you to build in this space. It's awesome, and there is so much capacity for it. You know, selfishly, I want to be able to do more of it, but I know the possibility for real change in this. And so what we need is a diversity of people creating in it so that we can have all of the perspectives represented and be able to really start to see where everybody else is coming from. I found this picture on the internet. I freaking love this kid. I have no idea what he's doing or what he's looking at, but I sort of feel like if we could all look at the world through eyes like these, the world would be a much better place. So frankly, I urge you all to do some of this stuff. I love it a ton. I think you will too. And imagine all the worlds we could create. Thanks a lot.